Tom Watson, one of the most beloved legends in golf, saw both greatness and torment as his career came to a close. After years of success, admiration, and unforgettable moments on the course, the game that had given him so much seemed to turn against him. It was almost as if he was being tested in the harshest way possible, facing challenges that felt unfair for someone who had given so much to the sport. Watson's legacy in golf is one of greatness, but it's also marked by moments of deep controversy, personal conviction, and challenges that tested him both on and off the course. In 1990, he made headlines not just for his achievements in golf, but for a bold stand against discrimination. He resigned from the Kansas City Country Club after the club rejected a membership applicant solely because he was Jewish. Watson, whose wife at the time was Jewish, felt that this decision was not just wrong, it was personal. If someone of his family's background wasn't welcome, then he didn't want to be part of it either. His resignation wasn't quiet. It was public, controversial, and sent shockwaves through the golf community. It was a moment that showed Watson wasn't just a champion on the course. He was willing to take a stand when it mattered. But controversy followed him in other ways as well. In the 1983 Skins game, an exhibition event featuring some of the biggest names in golf, Watson confronted Gary Player over what he believed was a potential rules violation. In a sport that prides itself on honesty and integrity, calling out another legend like Player was no small matter. The incident sparked heated discussions in the golfing world and added another layer to Watson's reputation, not just as a fierce competitor, but as someone who believed in upholding the spirit of the game, no matter who was involved. Years later, Watson found himself at the center of yet another storm, this time as the captain of the 2014 U.S. Ryder Cup team. The Ryder Cup is one of the most prestigious and pressure-filled events in golf, and leading the American team is both an honor and a challenge. But Watson's leadership style didn't sit well with many of the modern PGA Tour players. He was seen as out of touch, a man from a different era trying to lead a team that had changed in ways he may not have fully understood. The criticism came to a head after the U.S. team suffered a disappointing loss, and Phil Mickelson, one of the team's biggest stars, publicly called out Watson's decisions as captain. The fallout led to a heated debate over whether Watson's old-school approach was still effective in a changing game. But through it all, through the controversies, the criticisms, and the challenges, Watson remained one of golf's all-time greats. His battles with Jack Nicklaus in the late 1970s and early 1980s were legendary, producing some of the most unforgettable moments in the sport's history. Their duels, especially in major championships, weren't just competitions. They were masterpieces of skill, strategy, and sportsmanship that captivated fans around the world. And then there were the victories, 8 major championships, including 5 Open championships, 2 Masters titles, and 1 U.S. Open. His dominance on links courses, particularly in the Open Championship, became the stuff of legend. Few players in history have ever controlled the unpredictable, windswept fairways of links golf the way Watson did. And his brilliance didn't stop there. His career was filled with extraordinary moments that defined him as one of the greatest golfers of all time. Watson joined the PGA Tour in 1971, ready to make his mark. Just 2 years later, in 1973, he found a key figure in his career, his caddy, Bruce Edwards. They teamed up at the St. Louis tournament at Norwood Hills Country Club and immediately clicked. Edwards would go on to carry Watson's bag for most of his career. Becoming more than just a caddy, he was a trusted friend. Watson first made a serious run at a major championship at the 1974 U.S. Open at Winged Foot. He held the 54-hole lead, but things fell apart in the final round. It was a crushing loss, but something important came from it. Byron Nelson, the legendary golfer turned broadcaster, approached him in the locker room. Nelson liked Watson's aggressive style and offered to help him refine his game. Watson was honored, but didn't take him up on the offer right away. A few months later, while playing in the Byron Nelson Classic in Dallas, he finally visited Nelson's home. That meeting turned into a lifelong friendship and mentorship, much like Nelson's earlier relationship with Ken Venturi in the 1950s. Just 2 weeks after his disappointment at Winged Foot, Watson bounced back with his first PGA Tour victory at the Western Open. He stormed back from 6 shots behind in the final round at Butler National, proving he had the mental toughness to win. Under Nelson's guidance, Watson fine-tuned his swing and course management, and in 1975, he won his first major at the Open Championship in his very first appearance. He made a clutch 20-foot birdie putt on the 72nd hole to force a playoff with Jack Newton at Carnoustie. The next day, Watson edged out Newton by a single stroke, thanks in part to an incredible chip-in eagle at the 14th hole. His win put him in elite company. Only Ben Hogan, Tony Lema, and Ben Curtis had won the Open Championship on their first try. In 1977, Watson's rivalry with Jack Nicklaus took center stage. First, at the Masters, he went toe-to-toe with Nicklaus in the final round. Tied at the 17th hole, Watson sank a 20-foot birdie putt to pull ahead, then sealed his first green jacket after Nicklaus bogeyed the 18th. Later that summer, their showdown at the Open Championship at Turnberry became one of the greatest battles in golf history. After 3 rounds, both were 3 shots ahead of the field, setting the stage for a legendary final day. They matched each other shot for shot, entering the 17th hole tied again. Watson birdied while Nicklaus missed, and on 18, Watson's approach shot landed 2 feet from the pin. Nicklaus, in the rough, somehow got his ball on the green and drained a 40-foot birdie putt. Watson calmly knocked in his short birdie putt to win, finishing with a record-breaking 12 under 268. The rest of the field wasn't even close. Third place was 10 strokes behind. Watson had a stellar 1978 season, winning 5 times, but he suffered 2 major heartbreaks. At the Masters, he needed a par on the final hole to force a playoff with Gary Player, but he missed a 10-foot putt. Later that summer, at the PGA Championship, he entered the final round with a 5-shot lead, but lost in a 3-man playoff to John Mahaffey. That tournament was as close as Watson ever got to winning the PGA Championship, the one major that would elude him. The next few years cemented Watson's place among the greats. In 1980, he dominated the Open Championship at Muirfield with a brilliant third-round 64 and won by 4 strokes. He was the PGA Tour's leading money winner for the 4th straight year, racking up 6 victories. The following year, he won his 2nd Masters title, beating Nicklaus and Johnny Miller by 2 strokes. But perhaps his most famous moment came at the 1982 U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. Locked in a duel with Nicklaus once again, Watson found himself in trouble on the 17th hole. His tee shot landed in the thick rough, leaving an impossible chip. But Watson, full of confidence, told his caddy, "I'm going to make it." He did exactly that. His chip shot hit the flagstick and dropped in for a miraculous birdie. He birdied the 18th as well, sealing his first and only U.S. Open title. A month later, he won the Open Championship at Royal Troon, becoming only the 3rd golfer since World War II, after Ben Hogan and Lee Trevino, to win the U.S. Open and the Open Championship in the same year. Tiger Woods would later join that list in 2000. Watson's last major championship came at the 1983 Open Championship at Royal Birkdale. It was his 5th Open title and the only one he won in England. His other 4 were in Scotland. The following year, he had another close call at the Open, trying to win 3 in a row. But a bogey on the famous road hole at St. Andrews opened the door for Seve Ballesteros, who took the victory. After 1984, Watson's dominance faded. He didn't win another PGA Tour event for 3 years, though he finally broke the drought at the 1987 Nabisco Championship. In the late 1980s and early 90s, he had several close calls, including near misses at the Masters and the U.S. Open. By the mid-1990s, his game rebounded, and he won the 1996 Memorial Tournament and his final PGA Tour title at the 1998 MasterCard Colonial at age 48. Watson transitioned to the Champions Tour in 1999, where he found success, winning 14 times, including 6 senior majors. But even in his 50s and 60s, he proved he could still compete with the younger generation. At the 2009 Open Championship at Turnberry, he nearly pulled off the impossible. At 59 years old, he led after 3 rounds and needed only a par on the final hole to win a record, tying 6th Open. But his approach shot ran just over the green, and he failed to save par. In the playoff, Stuart Sink pulled away, leaving Watson heartbroken. He later admitted that the loss tore his guts out, but he was moved by the overwhelming support he received from fans worldwide. Watson continued playing in majors for several more years, receiving exemptions due to his past success. In 2015 at St. Andrews, he made his final Open Championship appearance, walking over the Swilcan Bridge for one last time. The following year, he played his last Masters, acknowledging that he could no longer compete at the highest level. Even though he stepped away from competitive golf, Watson still made his mark. In 2018, at age 68, he won the Masters Par 3 contest, becoming the oldest winner in its history. And in 2019, he played his final event on British soil at the Senior Open Championship, closing the book on an incredible career. And that's a wrap for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.